I'm imploring you, as somebody who is great at networking, is meeting all of these people and all that sort of stuff. Take that data and go, okay, wow, we can actually like organize. Like I've built this incredible network of people, and now I have this documentation of what they think and why they think it and how they think it and what they're good at and maybe what they're not so good at. This is a great organizational tool. I know all of these people and I know what they can do. Okay, so let's instead of having 17 different Discords, right, where we're all giving our communities our takes and this, that, like if we had a leftist unity Discord where it was like, hey, you know, I'm going to be streaming tonight and we're going to be talking about this and I'd love to have such and such person on because I know they're the voice, right? And then later they're like, hey, Rain, there's a whole debate thing going on. You want to come in and talk about that? Like, hell yeah. Like that's a great way for people to see people in their sort of areas of expertise and continue to sort of like cross those things over. And you're like sitting on a gold mine, I think. Oh, hi. Easy. Hello.
Hello.
How do you do?
Here I am. Here we are.
Here I am. Here it is.
Sorry for that grand entrance of mine. I didn't mean to do that.
It's just been that kind of morning. Yeah, I had OBS in like 60 frames, and I think that's why OBS just straight up crashed, and it was like, that's too many frames, dude. I can't do all this stuff. So it's been that kind of morning. It'll be like that sometimes.
It might be like that. Thank you again for joining me, Rain101. How the fuck are you doing? Good to be with you, man.
Yeah, it's good to be here. I'm doing okay. I was laying in bed. I woke up, before my alarm, and then the tweet came out, and I was like, "Oh shit, am I supposed to be on the internet?" And I like had to slow down and like, "No, it's fine. You don't have to be on the internet right now. You're okay."
Right.
But yeah, no, I have my coffee. I have my cat curled up in a little ball over there. I'm doing all right.
What's your cat's name?
Whisper.
It's called Whisper. The name of the DM on Twitch.
Yeah,
which makes me uncomfortable, by the way.
Yeah, well, sure. Let me just whisper in your ear a little. He has this tiny little meow, so like he'll be trying to get your attention. He'll be like, it's the cutest thing. It's the cutest thing in the world. So appropriately named, yeah. And just the most adorable tuxedo cat. And just like this is the cat that will make a cat person out of literally any person on the planet. He's just the sweetest. He's the best pet. He's all the best things of dogs and cats mixed together into a little fur ball. So, and now he's I've got a little cat tower right next to my desk that's by the window, and he just like curls up in it. It's adorable.
It's a good call. Cat tower by the desk. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Rain101, you're a returning guest on Leftist and Chill. If I can just refresh these graphics here on the bottom. We did actually have a couple new questions in the Inquisition since we have we've done it. I wonder if you'd like to lead off with that, and then we could dig into some other stuff.
Yeah, by all means.
All right. So one question I'd love to ask. I don't know if we asked it at the time. Let me know if we had. Did we ask the favorite drug, vice, and guilty pleasure? Yeah, we did. We asked everyone.
Yes.
That one. All right. Then what we didn't ask. What's your favorite cheese?
Oh my goodness. God, cheese has so many applications, right? Like it depends on the context, I think. But just like cheese on crackers cheese is probably brie. Just because it's got like such a good texture and consistency and really sharp flavor. I like really sharp sorts of cheeses, stinky cheeses. So anything that's like really mild, anything that's like kind of like, oh, it's kind of there if you pay attention for it. I'm not into that. I want the cheese in my face. That's why I'm eating it. That's why I'm here. So
love it. I think we have a couple more maybe. Yeah. This is a brand new one. And I was inspired by leftist Lorax, who joined Kenzo Shibata on Meet the Left, and question was asked, what do we, it was revolving around, how there's really no left in the United States. There are leftists, but there's no organization. And Lorax was like, okay, what could we do? Let's get everyone together from these different organizations, different leftist organizations. We're so fractured. How could we pull each other together in maybe a 15-point platform? And I wonder, what's one policy or something you would love to see
Sure,
on a 15-point platform?
I was actually I was thinking about this earlier, like maybe like 30 or 40 minutes ago. Not about specifically like a 15-point platform or what have you, but I mean, I think I've talked about this on my stream a bunch before. Like point one has to be like take care of people. I really enjoyed reading Kropotkin, and I don't remember if I talked about this last time we were on, but he talks about like feed people, man. You dipshits, like you theorists, you politicians, you had this revolution or you had this big change, right? Whether it was incremental or not. Mm-hmm. And there's still people starving in the street while you're sitting in like council chambers trying to figure out what like a new government or not government or whatever, like feed people, take care of people. And I think leftists, politicians, political thinkers often sort of like lose the plot of this, right? I think a lot of people start off intending to do good things for people, and then get caught up in the, well, how do we do that best, and who's going to do it, and how do we organize it, and all of these you get swept up into the political machine, right? That you yourself have created by wanting to help people. So if you're not starting off with this point of day one, step one, put homeless people into houses. There's plenty of them out there. Mm-hmm. There's so many houses. Put some homeless people in them. Yeah, right? Like there's so much food. Go and feed hungry people, right? Open the food banks up, open the warehouses. Like that's got to be the center of any sort of ideology. So point one, Kropotkin says it, and I agree with it, is take care of people and worry about the rest of it later. Because we saw in France in the 4 revolutions that they had at the turn of the 19th century, that they were worried about politics and guillotining people and who was complicit and who are the bad seeds and all of this sort of stuff. And they never had the popular support of the people because, okay, cool, you decapitated Marie Antoinette and King Louis. Nothing changed. We're still starving. We're still in the poorhouse. We still have people in debtor's prison. Like what's the point or purpose of all of this?
So perhaps something like housing for all, food and water for all. I don't want to put words in.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think whatever it is, right? Meet the needs of the people that are in front of you in your community. Because we know, right? One of the big reasons why we have so much sort of like infighting and conflict and stuff like that is I think a lot of different people trying to meet different needs in different ways. And that's okay, right? I was reading on Reddit about Rojava in Syria, which is like a council communism sort of organization or kind of semi-state, I guess you'd say, in northern Syria that have been operating like anarchist adjacent sort of like government in northern Syria for like 8 years. And they have been fighting ISIS and doing all of this like really intense stuff. And it's not like it was on an anarchism subreddit, right? And somebody was asking like, are they anarchists? And everybody in the thread was like, they're not, but who cares, right? Mm-hmm. Like they're certainly comrades. They're anarchist adjacent, right? They're sort of very decentralized. Like that's what works for them, and it's meeting the needs of their people in a healthy and positive way. So I'm an anarchist or whatever, right? But I can look at that and go, cool. That works for them, right? If that's how they're wanting to do it, and it's meeting the needs of their people, and it is equitable, right? It is charitable. It is making something that's not a capitalist hellscape in the middle of fucking Syria, right? If they could do that in Syria, and that's what works for them, that's awesome, right? And I feel like the American leftist Twitter mob, right? There's some people who would step in and be like, well, they're not enough this or that or the next thing for me. And it's like, who gives a shit what you think, man? Like, worry about your community and meet the needs of your community for the people, your neighbors, the people down the street, the guy who's sleeping in front of the bank that you step over, right? To check your, account balance or deposit that check. Like, figure out how to help them and let the rest sort of fall into place. And the thing specifically I was thinking of, because I was thinking about you and I think we're cut a lot from the same cloth. I don't know all of our little politics. It doesn't really matter, right? I think our approach to streaming, our approach to the left and things like that tend to be pretty in line with one another. And it's interesting that we are friends, right, on Twitch, and we're advocating for the same message, and at the same time, like, because of the nature of the beast, we're also competitors in a way, right? Like, we stream at different time slots or whatever, but like, we're both competing for largely the same pool of people, and that sucks, right? Like, that's really not what we advocate for, but it's the nature of the beast being streamers on Twitch. And one of the things that does is it fractures our community in a completely different way than, oh, are you a Marxist-Leninist? Are you an anarchist? Are you this, that, or the next thing? And we have so many sort of like subject matter experts on Twitch. I spent like 8, maybe 10 hours with the Richard Wolff Destiny debacle debate, just pulling apart why Destiny fails, why Richard Wolff succeeds, as rhetoricians, right? Looking at the rhetoric of how their speech works. And I've watched since then more than a handful of other debates. I watched a really great debate between Richard Wolff and an actual peer of his, like a friend of his who is, it's the same debate with an actual expert in Destiny's place. And sat there sort of analyzing that. Like, I'm good at that. That's what I do is political speech. That's what I went to school for, all of these sorts of things, right? And
I rated into that stream, and it was good. It was really good. I was loving it. Yeah.
And we have all of these subject matter experts, right? And let's say we ran a co-op, right? Let's say for instance that it was pick your poison. It was a factory. It was a retail store. Who gives a shit, right? Like, we ran a co-op. Different people would still have different sort of responsibilities, right? That's how division of labor works. And you have the guy in your neighborhood or whatever who's like good with cars. You have the guy at your job who's like, oh, that's the one that you want to go to for this document or this sort of thing, right? But because we are all trying to be all of it at once, we sort of fail to recognize at times, like, hey, I'm going to sit down and watch a debate. I'd really like a subject matter expert on debate here to sort of like think about like I'm mixing so many different things, right? But think about a sports broadcast, right? You have play-by-play and color commentary, right? Play-by-play guy says, okay, you know, it's 2nd and 10 at the 41, you know, they're lining up in this formation. And then you have the color commentary guy saying, this is what they're doing and why, right? Or this is why that play worked or didn't. They're the subject matter expert. That's why Tony Romo is such a good commentator, is because he knows football. And so he can say, look, you know, on these 3rd and 6 situations, the quarterback's going to be looking, you know, at this, that, and the next thing. And he's seeing this cover 2 formation. The average person at home doesn't get that, right? They don't see that the way that a football expert does. And we don't do that in the left. We don't do that on Twitch because we're competing with each other at the same time, right? We want to be the expert at all the different things. So you see so many people with their sort of like bad takes on Israel, and they're leftists. And for example, right? They're
I'd love to
leftists,
talk
right?
about that,
They're woke, right? Like, they're trying their best or whatever, but they lack critical information. They lack context or whatever. And rather than just like being like, we're going to look at the person that we know is like the guy or gal or what have you, right? The person who is the subject matter expert when it comes to the Israel-Palestine conflict, and is like our best sort of like mouthpiece for the left on this thing. We all just fucking spit our takes out there, and some of them are good and some of them are bad, and a lot of them get lost in the mix. And so we lack unity, right? The only time we really unify around something is like Andrew Yang and his like just nuclear weapons grade bad take, right? We can all agree that take sucks, but when it comes to the good take, we have 17 different options. Pick your poison, and you don't even necessarily know who it's coming from, right? Which is a problem that we've experienced on the left as well. It's like, who is the source of this information, and should I trust it? And I think if we were leftist to organize in some way, and sort of unify under this, that, or the next thing, like we should probably recognize like who the right person is for this job or the next job or whatever it is, and defer to them or bring them. Like you've sort of like had 60 something people on your show, right? Like you've talked to so many different people and learned so many different perspectives and seen where everybody is kind of like hyper focused, right? Everybody has their sort of like little niche or their little lens that they're looking through, and that's like, it's like having a lot of data and trying to interpret it, right? And you're right now, I'm imploring you as somebody who is great at networking, is meeting all of these people and all that sort of stuff. Take that data and go, okay, wow, we can actually like organize. Like I've built this incredible network of people, and now I have this documentation of what they think and why they think it and how they think it and what they're good at, and maybe what they're not so good at. This is a great organizational tool. I know all of these people and I know what they can do. Okay, so let's instead of having 17 different Discords, right, where we're all giving our communities our takes and this, that, like if we had a leftist unity Discord where it was like, hey, I'm going to be streaming tonight and we're going to be talking about this, and I'd love to have such and such person on because I know they're the voice, right? And then later they're like, hey, Rain, there's a whole debate thing going on. You want to come in and talk about that? Like, hell yeah. Like that's a great way for people to see people in their sort of areas of expertise and continue to sort of like cross those things over. And you're like sitting on a gold mine, I think.
Is there like not like a big tent leftist like Discord
not that I know
like
of.
that?
Not that I know.
I mean, okay. Wow.
Not that I'm
I'm having a light bulb moment over here. Yeah, you're blowing my mind. Okay.
Because that's what we do. That's what we would do in a workplace. That's what we would do in a union. That's what we would do any place. Is we say like, I mean, like I'm a trainer. I'm a good public speaker. I'm pretty knowledgeable about my job. I've been doing it for 10 years. So they ask me to teach other people about it. Right? They've recognized that I'm an expert at my job and I'm really good at teaching people. Cool. Let's give him a job doing those things. Right? And so when there's training questions, they go to the trainer. And here on Twitch, we have just a billion, Twitch, YouTube, you name it. We have a bunch of jack of all trades sorts of people, right? And I don't know. I think that'd be a great way to sort of unify, because I've watched a few of these on your YouTube. I've sat at work and I've had them sort of on in the background. Some people I know, some people I don't. Just to like hear some different voices. And it occurred to me because I was watching Bleep Blop Ben, because I really like him as a streamer. And one of the first things he says is he's like, I'm not an anarchist, I'm a Marxist, and all this sort of stuff. And I was like, that's interesting, because I've spent a lot of time in his chat and we agree on like 95% of things. And I never would have guessed necessarily that he like was so vehemently like, I want to point out, right, that I'm not this, that, or the next thing, because it doesn't matter really. I recognize that he wants the same things as I do and has slightly different ways of wanting to go about it, and that is completely okay and not incompatible in the way that like leftist Twitter would maybe have you believe, or any number of other different things. This, that, or the next encounter 5.5. Shush. And there's, I think when you get everybody together in a room and you get them talking and you really get to see all those different perspectives, you realize like we're not so different. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
I don't know. So that's the thing that occurred to me this morning that I thought I would throw your way, just throw out there into the world, because I'm not going to do it. I hate doing that kind of shit. This is one of my weaknesses. I'm a terrible networker. I don't like dealing with people. I like to just kind of sit in my corner and do my thing. But right. Here you are with all the tools, all the tools that you need and all the resources you need.
Sort of an interesting little side effect of this little project that I've done, just to try to, well, I think that's the next level of building leftist unity, strength, and power. This is how I could continue to do that. And it's not something I've considered quite as explicitly as you're saying, but makes a lot of fucking sense. So I don't know. I'm imagining a Discord where lots of different channels of discussion, and effectively along the way, the discussion is focused on, all right, who's our fucking expert on this issue?
Yeah. And like, you know, you can plan a stream, right? You could be like, hey, this Friday I'm going to be doing, you know, I'm going to be doing a stream where I'm really focusing on this thing that's happening or whatever. Like, you know, who might want to be involved in that, or who's, you know, this particular person that you know is like the person to go to for that. You're like, hey, are you going to be free like Friday at like 3:00 or whatever? And sort of coordinate in that way. I think individual streamers in their individual spaces, sort of constantly referencing to and commenting on each other's spaces and takes and ideas and stuff, so far has been really good to build a leftist community on Twitch. But we haven't built a leftist community on Twitch, right? We've built 40, right? Leftist communities that don't always overlap in this way. I was talking to Tina. I was talking to Tina too, because she insists that she is more well-read than me, which I vehemently argue against. And I've tried to say like a few times, like let's do like a book club, or let's get on and chat, and let's do this, that, and the next thing. But it's like, it's always in a Twitch chat that we're having this conversation, right? It's so hard to get everybody together in the same place, having the same conversation and schedule things and figure stuff out, because we're all in our own little communities. We're all in our own little sort of like insular spaces where, you know, I'm the boss, right? Okay. It's my Discord, and I'm going to tell you what I'm doing, and hopefully you show up for it, rather than us coordinating together saying, hey, I'd love to be on your, like when you said like, hey, you can sign up for round 2, I was like on it, right? Like, I want to be here. I want to, you know, I want to be a part of your community. I want your community to be a part of my community, but really I just want it to be one big Twitch leftist community, right? Where we get used to seeing each other's faces and on each other's streams, and it's not like, oh, you know, like I'm a guest here, I'm just stepping in. Like, no, we're really actually getting used to hearing a lot of different voices in a lot of different spaces, because Twitch streaming can get tedious, man. I'm sure you've gone through this as well, where you're like, well, it's a slow news week and nothing is going on, and I don't really have a ton to say, but I got to hit the button and fill 5 hours of time, right? And you sometimes wish, like, God, I just wish I had somebody on to like pick their brain or bounce ideas off of, or maybe they're going to bring up, you know, something. I want to farm them for content, right? Like, and it alleviates that too. Hey, man, like I really would just love to have a guest on the show. Is there anybody who's going to be free at this time? And then we can start to build, you know, a bigger, broader, sort of more unified community in that way. And I don't know. It's just a lot of this literally occurred to me like 30 minutes ago. So
I like it. I like that super fresh idea right there. Super fresh. All right. That's some good shit right there. I'm going to think more about that. That seed is planted. Let's tell you that. Good. And I don't know. It seems to tap a little bit into the idea of the show that, or the concept that helped to inspire the show, which was me and Marcus and others talking about a show which was effectively this, but hosted by a revolving series of hosts. So it was called the revolving door that rotates.
Right. I remember you telling me that last time. Yeah.
And then and then we called it revolving revolutionaries. Sure. Anyways, and then it became this because someone's got to start it, I guess.
Right.
So
exactly.
I guess it's me. Yeah. And I'm really hoping, and I'm already seeing. I've noticed some people have already done stuff like this before. I spoke with Universal Discourse last week. They're doing amazing interviews, and was a really great guest. I really also, if I can loop back, that your banger there. You said we don't have a leftist community on Twitch. We have 40 leftist communities on Twitch. It's like we have like our own little fiefdoms, just like you were saying, with our Discords and our own different sets of rules, etc., how we run things, and
Yeah.
there's
my title in my Discord has been apathetic despot for the longest time, because that's really what it boils down to, right? Like, do whatever. But if you do something that pisses me off, I am God and king here in this Discord, and I'll kick you the fuck out, right? Like, and that's not the kind of hierarchical look the left is really looking for. But at the same time, that's how we manage our communities, right? Somebody comes into my chat and says something I don't like, I kick them the fuck out. Somebody comes in my Discord and says something I don't like, I kick them the fuck out. And then they go to your Discord, or they go to somebody else's, or they go to someone else's chat, or whatever it is, right? And I don't run my Discord like a leftist. There's no democracy there, right? Like, it's mine. My channel is mine. People come in and I'm like, my name's at the top. Like, if you don't like it, get the hell out of here. And I think about that on more than a few. I mean, obviously there's like the brainworm dipshits who come in, and it's not worth engaging with them. But when it comes to other things, like, I mean, I'm not gonna democratize my time, right? Like, hey, chat, when do you think I should stream? It's not a healthy way of going through life or whatever. But the more I think about like how we operate our own spaces, and I can only speak for myself, but I'm in a lot of Discords. I read around, how we operate our own spaces versus sort of the ideals that we're talking about. So what if there was a more democratized, sort of centralized community, right? Where people who don't stream could still contribute, could still say, this is what I'd like to see. This is, people have Chad has good ideas. Don't tell him I said that. Gosh. But Chad sometimes has good ideas. And if they're like, man, what if they, they say like, hey man, you, like Dan and Rain should do a talk show about blah. And you're like, holy shit, why didn't that occur to me or whatever, right? Like, this is what we would like to see. This is what's going to be beneficial for us. They might say that in my stream, and I'm like, yeah, I'll reach out to Dan, but you're like doing other stuff or whatever, right? Like, when we centralize, we bring all of those ideas together. We have discussions about them as a community, and people can advocate for like, yeah, I know you kind of want to do your own thing, but like, think about the potentiality for this. And you're like, that's actually pretty convincing. And I might not have that if I'm in my own Discord, and I'm like, maybe, I guess, right? Like, I don't know. I think I think it has legs, and I think you should start it. I think there's a lot of people who are waiting for something to happen. And I think I was having a conversation with a friend of mine from the way back who like left here in Colorado and lives in Washington or something like that, and lives like in her mom's trailer, taking care of her like grandma who's aging and all these sorts of things. And she said on one occasion, like, I just want to like go and move out into the middle of nowhere and start like a vegan anarchist co-op thing. And I was like, well, do it. Yeah. Like, if you start it, if you want that, other people probably want it too, right? They like you are like, I wish this thing existed so I could go participate in it. And I think so many people experience that because we were very much swept up in our own lives, we're in our own responsibilities and things like that. And it's like, man, if only there were this existent thing I could go participate in, I'd be all over it, right? But I don't have the energy or the time to bring it into existence. But if it shows up, let me know, right? And so I think there's so many people with no kitten. No, don't step on. That's hot. That's hot.
Hot kitten. That's hot kitten. Figure it out. Oh my gosh.
There's so many people sort of waiting for waiting for someone to come along and bring a thing into existence so that they can participate in it.
Are you a sports film buff? Do you like Field of Dreams? If you build it, they will come.
Absolutely. Yeah,
I don't know if it was that or Ease His Pain that you were going for there. I figured it was. Yep.
I was trying to avoid being too far on the nose there. But yes, if someone builds it, people will show up for it, right? And I actually, in this conversation with this person, said did do the Field of Dreams thing, and they were like, don't. And I was like, I'm just saying. You want to go and get a plot of land that no one's using out in the middle of nowhere and make a co-op out there and tell your friends about it, and they tell their friends about it. Next thing you know, you got 100 people out there like doing the thing that you want to do, right? That they want to do too. So, yeah.
Yep. Yeah,
That was a lot for that one question. That was a lot for that one
what
question.
Was the question? Your favorite cheese?
It was, favorite cheese. 15-point plan thing. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, no, that was wonderful. Many layers and just perfect. If there's anything else, any more layers, let me know. But I think you're right. I think a lot of people are just sort of waiting. They're waiting for other people to show what's possible, what can be done. Yeah. I sort of wake up. I woke up. I don't know. It was maybe in the middle of March, and I'm like, oh, look at this. I got this computer. I got all these tools. I could do this kind of show that I've been talking about doing, and why haven't I done it yet? I should just fucking do the thing. And then I just did it. I just fucking did it. And honestly, this interview show is one of the best things I've ever done in my entire life because of conversations like this, because of getting to talk to folks like Rain101. You're awesome, dude.
Thanks.
Fucking handsome too. Look at this thirst trap over here. Get a load of it. My guys, my gals, my NB pals. Look at Rain101 over here. Love it. All right. I don't think I had any. Did I ask you about your favorite lefty book? I'm sorry if I forgot.
No.
Oh,
no.
Do you want to talk about that?
Sure. I don't read a lot of lefty books, to be honest with you, or haven't. I started kind of getting into theory on the stream. I think I mentioned this last time. Like, reading on stream can be really like. Chat is the worst because they're always distracting me because I see the chat move and my brain's like, read it, because I've been streaming for 4 years. So it's like, engage with your community, dipshit.
If you just see it tick up, your brain wants to do it. Honestly, yeah.
I'm like, it's just the bot.
I remember streaming back in the day when it was just you and your bot.
Just you and your bot. Yeah.
I'm not talking shit about you because that happened to me too, obviously.
Oh yeah. I think we all kind of go through it.
It's a rite of passage.
But and I mean, I think one of the most interesting sort of when I was going through critical theory in school, and we were reading Moby Dick through a Marxist lens. And I was like, oh my God, this book is, I mean, Moby Dick is a masterpiece. It's really well regarded. It's like the first great American novel, according to, sort of a lot of people. And, because it is doing so much, right? It's a big book. So, it should be doing a lot, but you can read it through a lot of different lenses and still get the right answer. And I think that, that looking at that book through that lens in that way, in a way that it never really occurred to me before, right? How the roles and responsibilities work on this boat. It's like Animal Farm, but way better, right? And not as obviously sort of on the nose. And that sort of made me continue on that trend of like, let me look at the scripts I'm auditioning for through these lenses. Let me look at the text that I'm reading elsewhere, right? Because you start to see if you're keyed into it, right? You start to read a New York Times report, and you start asking different questions than you might otherwise. Because I'm the sort of person that I've recognized this about myself. I take a lot of things on face value. Somebody says X, Y, and Z, and I assume that they're acting in good faith, that that's what they intend or that's what they believe. And then you start to read things and you say, well, maybe they are, but look at the lens that they're looking at this issue through, right? They're looking at it through this pro-capitalist lens. They're looking at this through this sort of oligarchical lens, right? The status quo is the lens that they're perceiving an issue through, and that's what this newspaper is reporting on. And you start to see the little cracks, right? You start to pull out the little things. So I don't know that there's like Kropotkin's great or whatever, like for theory, or you can read Marx and reading Marx is not a bad thing. But read everything, right? Read everything in that way. And you start to pull apart their intention, whether it's conscious or not. And there's subtext that maybe even the author of an article or something like that didn't intend. And that opens your brain to like, well, what's another way of approaching this, right? Rather than looking at it through the lens of how is this going to hurt the economy, maybe we look at the lens of how is this going to impact real living human beings? And then you unintentionally start to have empathy, right? You start to have empathy for other living, breathing human beings. For me as a human being, it's hard to connect the dot to somebody who lives half a world away, because I'm not experiencing their life. I've never experienced the circumstances they're experiencing. But when I can read a thing and sort of like, oh, there's going to be this economic forum, or there's going to be a change in this policy, and this is why it's good. And you're like, okay, who is it good for, and who is it bad for, and why is it bad for them? And how would I experience that if it were happening here? Now you can look at somebody in France or in Cote d'Ivoire or in New Zealand and put yourself in their shoes a little bit easier, and maybe have an opinion about that article or that piece of legislation or that idea that you didn't maybe you wouldn't have necessarily come to otherwise. Just saying, oh, okay, yeah, that marginal tax increase seems like a good thing. Maybe it's not, right? So just, I think, reading everything through a critical lens, whether it's an editorial that you're reading on Reddit or whatever it is, right, is sort of the best literature that you can read, because you're creating the leftist narrative in your head, and that's going to make you sharper. That's going to make you sharper when somebody comes at you with an idea or a recommendation or a take or an argument. You're going to be able to be a little more critical of it, rather than in debate, like you want to address people's arguments, right? And at the same time, you want to set the tone and control the pace and things like that. So when somebody comes at you and says, I want to talk to you about X, and you're like, okay, let's talk about X through the lens that you want to talk about it. They're now kind of controlling that conversation, and you're working within their framework. And when you can say, okay, well, let's talk about X, but I'm not going to be beholden to the framework that you're setting for me, that allows you to make bigger and broader arguments. That allows you to attack their argument from a different, there's 1,000 different reasons why looking at things through a critical lens is a really positive thing. So if you're in the chat right now and you're like, what can I read? Everything, but be intentional about it and think, okay, I'm a leftist. What are they saying, and what's the subtext of it for me? And what would my response be, or what would an argument against that argument be? So
everything.
Yeah.
All right. If you didn't want to answer the question, you could have just said.
It's Marx. It's fine. It's Marx. Okay. Like everybody read Marx, and you'll be fine.
All right. Okay, I do think. Oh, did I ever ask you streamer advice? Was that a question? Did we go over streamer advice, streamer tips?
I think we talked a little bit about streaming. Yeah.
Then I do believe we've gone over all of the new questions. I wonder if I could loop back.
Absolutely.
You were talking about bad lefty takes on Israel, and it made me really nervous because I boldly stepped out and had a few takes of my own, and I wonder what bad lefty takes you're talking about. You said they lacked critical info and context. I don't know. What bad takes are you hearing? Please not me. Please not me. Please not me.
No. A lot of the sort of neutral ones, for sure. Right. Like if you're, I think it's okay to say I lack critical information, and maybe like I have not, Greta. Yeah, I have not made any sort of like tweets or statements or anything like that on Israel, because that is not an area of my expertise. I don't know the whole narrative and the whole timeline. Right now, I know that there's a huge problem. Right there's one side that is being occupied. People who lived in a space that was theirs historically, who were basically told that wasn't theirs anymore. by an organization, a state that is backed by the most powerful nation in the world. They have nukes, they have tanks, they have guided missiles, they have every fucking piece of technological wizardry you could possibly imagine. And one side doesn't, right? They literally have bricks and AKs, and that's, you know, at the best of times, right? There's clearly a disproportion in power there. Is it my place, responsibility, or do I have a need to speak out in that space? No, there are better people than me that I can learn from, that I can listen to. It doesn't mean that I'm like, you know, I'm not going to pick a side. No, like the Palestinians are absolutely getting like fucking run roughshod over and have been since the end of the Second World War. It's not fair. It's not right. It's not decent. The Israeli state is like a far right ultra nationalist like theocracy. We would, if that were happening in America, God forbid, we'd never see anything like that here. You and I and everybody else on the internet would be like, this is not okay. This is fucking awful, right? If a far right ultra nationalist, theocratic state were oppressing American citizens, we'd be out protesting. Oh wait, we do that. It's called Black Lives Matter, right? Like it's like literally the same thing. But there's so
I mean, the first half, I can't lie. I was like,
there's so many people who are like, I'm not going to pick a side. That's complicity. That's like literally saying, I'm not going to pick a side when it comes to South African apartheid. That's like saying, look, there's good people on both sides, and I'm not. You know, there's the Proud Boys and 3%ers on one side who absolutely want to deport or eradicate in some way, shape, or form every person of color in this country. And then there's people who don't want their lives to be ended because of the color of their skin. And you know what? We should listen to both of those sides equally. Like, that's a horseshit take. And the reason people don't do it is because the American propaganda machine has equated criticizing Israel with anti-Semitism, which is not true. Israel is a state, right? Criticizing North Korea is not being racist towards Koreans. It's criticizing the government of North Korea that happens to be comprised of Korean people because it's in fucking Korea. Like, if you criticize Joe Biden, you're not like, wow, you're like super racist against white people. I mean,
you're not a patriot. That's what that means.
It just doesn't make sense. But we've been conditioned to think that because Israel is a Jewish state, that criticism of Israel is criticism of Judaism or Jewish people or the millions in the Jewish diaspora. Like, it doesn't make any sense, right? But here we are. And so you get these you get people who are out here who feel like they have to say something, but don't feel comfortable taking a side or actually advocating for something. Mm-hmm. And so they wind up being complicit in it, despite sort of their best intentions. For me, it's like, I just rather not say anything at all. There are better people, better equipped, who I can retweet. I can signal boost them to the best of my ability with their much better and more informed take than I could ever come up with. I'd say the same thing, but worse. So why? Because I'm a political entity in the world, I have to make no, shut the fuck up. If you don't know, don't say. Like, it's okay. It's okay. But don't find yourself in a position where in attempting to be sort of gracious or to recognize your limitations, you actually are complicit in oppression. And I don't think people realize that you can just shut the fuck up, I say, having rambled for like 5 straight minutes.
No, point well taken. Knowing when to shut the fuck up, knowing where to lay your fucks. Question from chat: is the State of Israel a Western colonial project?
Yes.
It's definitely a colonist by force. It's colonialism by force.
Yeah, post World War II, right? Post World War II. Mostly, this was largely advocated for by the United Kingdom to redraw the map, right, in that area, and to carve out a section of the Middle East that is sacred and important to almost every religion, right? In the West, right? Muslims, Jews, and Christians all hold this land to be sacred. And after the Holocaust, right, was the big sort of like political driver, right? Here's the Holocaust. Here's the systematic elimination of like 6 million Jews in Nazi Germany, and we don't want that to happen again. Jews have been persecuted all throughout history and all that sort of stuff. So we're going to go into the Holy Land and carve it out for Israel, and that is great, right? Like we're going to give these people a safe place to live, where they can be free from persecution, right? Almost immediately after the formation of the Israeli state, several Arab countries declared war on Israel, attempting to eradicate this because they advocated against it. They were like, no, you can't do this. There's a lot of Arabs and Muslims living there. You can't just come in and say this is you're France and the United States and Great Britain. Like you can't just come in here and redraw lines. And the West was like, yeah, no, but we can because we have bigger guns than you. And so, okay, cool. The Israeli people now, the Jewish faith, followers of the Jewish faith, now have like a safe, secured, supportive place to live. It just so happens to be a place where people were already living and had been living for thousands of years. It also, incidentally, gives these Western powers a really good foothold in the region to project power and force into an area where the Soviet Union, is pressing south and is exploring its interests in the region, because the Soviet expansion was real big post World War II, right? They pushed all the way into Poland and built the Warsaw Pact, and we're looking to extend that into Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan and Georgia and all these other different places, right? And the Red Scare was in full effect, and NATO was kind of starting to form. And here's a great way to get a nice Western foothold in the region so that we could do reconnaissance, so that we could have planes, we could have guns, we could have tanks in the region, in a place that was supported by us. Because otherwise, the West didn't have any foothold in the Middle East, none whatsoever, didn't have allies, didn't have support. Forming Israel was a way for the West to project power into that region in an attempt to at least sort of forestall and push back the Soviet sort of expansion through Asia. Part of the reason why Israel, which is a country that's this big, right, and didn't exist, has nukes, right? If you think that the Israeli like sort of nuclear project is just because they developed this on their own time, of course not. We literally just handed them some nukes and said, hey, if anybody fucks with you, send them off, right? We mean business.
What? We gave them nukes?
Yeah. So, yes. It's colonial. It is a sort of force projection, which America's all about. That's why we have a zillion aircraft carriers all throughout the world and submarines and all that sort of stuff. My dad served in the military for 30 years as an officer, and I learned a lot. And one of the teams he was a part of was one of the first Ready First combat teams. And their goal as a brigade was to be able to be deployed anywhere in the world within 3 days. A brigade. We're talking about thousands of people that can be literally anywhere in the world within 3 days. That was their whole mission. That was their whole logistical thing, because we need to be able to project force and protect our interests anywhere in the world at a moment's notice, because we have so many interests everywhere, and we project force everywhere. There's not a corner of the planet that the United States Armed Forces does not touch or can't touch real quickly. And the formation of Israel in a large part was to establish and then project Western hegemony in places where it didn't exist before.
All right. That's a $5 lefty word. You're talking about establishment of Israel was in part to establish Western hegemony. Hegemony. What did I say? Yeah. Hegemony in the area. Hegemony? Oh, Lordy.
Hegemony.
Oh, gosh. Okay. I'm canceled. Okay. What's hegemony? What's hegemony?
Hegemony. Worldview, sort of ideology, methodology, the way that things are done, and having an intelligence network in Israel that we can build off of and communicate with allows us not only to project military force, but also has allowed the CIA to fuck with a lot of governments. I mean, we've seen this in Iran, Saudi Arabia, all sorts of other places, right? Where having a safe place for intelligence assets in the region where people can kind of come and go without scrutiny, right? We can send spies and special forces and all sorts of people in to the region without having to we're in West Germany. How do you get an intelligence operative from West Germany to Iran without anybody noticing? Well, you really can't, right? You're traveling through, you're basically forced to travel through a lot of enemy occupied territory to do so. But here we have right here in the Mediterranean, this nice little area that is super supportive of us and we're supportive of them. So now you have a base of operations for intelligence and counterintelligence. And Israel, to preserve its own interests, has one of the most intricate and phenomenal intelligence communities in the world. Israeli intelligence is on par with any major superpower on the planet. And we work very, very closely with them. So now we have places where we can launch planes from, right? And where we can launch, like spy planes and stuff and interceptors and all that sort of stuff to project power in the region. But we also have a nice little place where we can kind of funnel our operatives into places like Saudi Arabia, Iran, Syria, Jordan, things like that, where we maybe couldn't have so easily before. And being able to do that, right, to support and communicate with sort of pro-democratic or pro-capitalist, more accurately, anti-communist was the big sort of reason in the first place, to be able to promote that anti-communist, pro-capitalist hegemony, to gain better access to those nations that had rich oil reserves and continue to generate a ton of oil interests and all that sort of stuff, and build good relationships with them, really kind of powered American sort of development and progression through to the present day, right, from 1945 onward. And so the establishment of the Israeli state is not just, right, that's in a lot of ways the pretense for it, right? There was the Holocaust and it was awful, and these people have been persecuted for so long, and we're going to give them their own space. It's going to be a space that's really strategically important. So don't worry about that. That's not important. It's because of other reasons. It's because of these religious reasons and these social reasons, not because it's an immense asset and benefit to Western powers.
All right.
Also,
that's a lot of words for saying you're an anti-Semite.
Fuck you. Nice. This is why I don't go on Twitter. This is why I don't go on Twitter.
Got him. That was good. Yeah. I was taking lots of notes. I think you blew a lot of minds during that time. I think some folks in chat were learning some things along with myself there.
Awesome.
We just learned what hegemony is. It's nothing.
It's nothing. It's just it's a made up word. It's gibberish and gobbledygook.
We got it's looking like 5-10 minutes here. I don't know. What else is on your mind? What's grinding your gears?
The last thing that I've been thinking about.
Yeah.
And it kind of ties back into that subject matter expert.
You got like a list over there?
I mean, yes. I've got a little list in the back of my head of like, what sucks? With the to get kind of meta about the conversation about Israel, this is a different definition of a word that's really offensive. So let me use the definition that's the right one. But we as entities, political entities on the internet, are extremely reactionary. We react to things because that is what gets us attention, which grows our community, which gives us clout, which makes people pay more attention, and all these sorts of things that are good, right, for a community, for a leftist community, for a streamer, all that sort of stuff. So the flavor of the week, right? We're always sort of chasing the flavor of the week, and I think we get lost in the weeds of that. And part of the problem is that there's just so much hate and inequality and problem. Like, there's so many problems in the world, and it's hard to pay attention to all of them, right? Nobody should be expected to pay attention to all of them. But the Israeli occupation of Palestine has been going on for 70 years, right? And this is not the first time that Israel has committed disproportionate acts of violence against Palestinians. They've been pushing, and there's been ebb and flow for decades, right? This is probably the leading into, third intifada, possibly, right? But it's when it happens that we're like, hey, let's pay attention to Israel. And probably 2 weeks from now, when Joe Biden says that fast food workers are I don't know, second-class citizens or something, and then we get all up in arms about that, right? I was reading something on Twitter about how they're calling in the National Guard in Connecticut or New Jersey to like strike bust, basically. The National Guard are being called in to be scabs because nursing home workers are looking like they're going to strike, and so they're preemptively authorizing 5,000 National Guard troops to step in and bust that strike up, which is a classic American pastime, right? And so when that happens, we just kind of forget about Israel, as we tend to do, because this is the next new hotness that's coming along that's going to get us attention. And that sort of doesn't do good things for people. When we are, I think about trauma, right? In my field, we talk about capital T trauma and little t trauma, right? You get into a car accident, you're the victim of a natural disaster, your house burns down or whatever, right? We've got the Red Cross and FEMA and all of these things, right? Your community will come together for like 2 weeks and help you. And the Red Cross will give you a hotel to stay in and food to eat, and all these people will help you. And then 2 weeks later, your house is still burnt down or whatever it is, but they're like, okay, like, we helped, off to the next thing. And you're like, but I still need help, right? And people are like, yeah, but we're off to the next thing. And when somebody goes through like a really bad breakup or a divorce or something like that, it's the same way, right? Like, I've been through bad breakups, and my friends are there, and they're like, all right, like, cry and let me buy you a beer and all this sort of stuff. But eventually you get kind of sick of it, right? You're like, oh my God, I got my own shit to deal with. Like, let's get you back out there. And you're like, no, this is going to take months, years to recover from. And our approach to these issues, our sort of shotgun scatter flavor of the week approach to these issues, really keeps us from having unified voices and making real consequential action and pushes for consequential action beyond that first initial reaction. And I think that's a huge problem for us as empathetic people, and for people on the left who want to solve problems for people. Is we're flaky and unreliable because we are subject to the whims of the internet rather than the actual meaningful action that we need to take. And I just think it's a problem. I don't have a solution for it. I'm just pointing it out because I don't know how often it gets pointed out. But I think that we could do better as individual content creators to become subject matter experts in a particular issue, right? Take all your problems and kind of pull them apart. I like Amy C3 because she focuses on housing. She's a content creator that I really like because that's her thing. And other things kind of crop up and we'll talk about them, but really we're focusing on this one thing. And I know if somebody comes into my chat and they're asking about housing, I know there's a person I can say, go watch this person, go into their Discord and ask them that question because they know that shit in and out. They live and breathe it. It's an everyday thing for them. And we don't have enough voices like that where you can go, I'm going to tell you to leave my community and my stream and take your view elsewhere to get the information that you need, right? Instead of like Googling some shit and spending 30 minutes giving you a half-baked answer that I just came up with, go watch her VOD or join her Discord and get 1,000 resources that I could never come up with. And I think we could do better. I think we could do better at that. And we ourselves can sort of encourage and foment that in our own communities and in our own sort of like way of looking at things. I don't want to be the subject matter expert on housing. I wouldn't know where to start. We already have someone for that. And it's okay that they're not me. You don't have to get my take on housing. There's a better one right there. So this has just been on my mind this morning, and the more I think about it, the more connections I sort of find. So
I'm hopeful that we can be better, but I think we can be best.
Yeah, and Dirtbag is out here, activists, right? Activists are focused on specific things, right? And us as I wouldn't say I'm an activist. I'm not out in my community doing shit the same way that people in my community are, right? I attend a protest, but I didn't organize it. Activists did that. Mm-hmm. And I think we have a sort of a lot of armchair commentators, right, on the internet and on Twitch and on YouTube and all of that sort of stuff. And we have we don't have to be the way that we are. And I agree, we can be best. Yeah. We can look at these things through a different lens than we're used to, right? I'm going to put a channel together where I talk about leftist stuff. Okay, let's stream a little bit bigger than that. Let's be a little more intentional and thoughtful as a community, as an organization of people, rather than just as individuals. Individualism is an absolute sort of like tool of the capitalist system to divide us, right? On political issues, on social issues, on economic issues. Get yours. And Twitch is the same way, right? Get yours. I want more viewers, and I want more subs, and I want more. You can come twitch.tv/Rain101 and give me your Prime. Like all of these sorts of things, and it divides us more than it helps us, right? And we fall victim to the same individualist sort of mindset as anybody else, as anybody else working to climb the corporate ladder, right? To get that promotion, to get that raise, or whatever it is. One person's raise is my 10 gifted subs or whatever, right? So, it's something that we should be actively and intentionally thinking about if we want to be unified as leftists, if we want to be a unified community, if we want to be better than the individual parts that make up the leftist idea on the internet.
We need to Power Ranger the left.
Yes, absolutely.
We need to Power Ranger the left. Yeah. Oh, I get it now. All right, just how?
Yeah. You tell me, bud. You're the one who knows everybody. I'm the idea guy, okay? Like you can come to me and be like, "Hey, how do we solve this problem?" And I will tell you how to solve it, and then I will leave you to do the work because I'm not the guy. I know that about myself. I'm not the guy. Like I'm terrible at spending time in people's streams and networking and talking in Discords and all that sort of stuff. That's not me. That's never been me. And that's okay.
That's okay.
It's okay, right? Like you find the right person. That's always been my leadership philosophy is if it's not me, then you find the right person. And more often than not, it's not me. More often than not, there's someone out there who knows it better, can do it better. I'm going to find them. I'm going to empower them, and I'm going to watch them thrive in a role that suits them. Mm-hmm. And for me, it's like, okay, cool. I like to problem solve. I want to come up with a new idea. I want to generate the next big concept and then give it away. Give it away.
And the way you're describing it, no one has to be the person all the time. No one has to be the person. Even like if someone were to head up this kind of project, they wouldn't have to be the person all the time. They just have a certain responsibility. Yeah. The way you're describing it is everyone comes together. Everyone is the guy sometimes. Right.
Yeah. And you eventually, you look to a leader, right? I know on the left, like no gods, no masters and all that, but we can have, I disagree that we can't have heroes, and I disagree that we can't have leaders. I think people like leaders and like to be led at times, right? Somebody who takes the initiative. And like something like this, if there is somebody who is really driving it, is really motivating it, is really active, starts the machine in motion, right? And then it gets to the point where it's like, I'm going to check in on this Discord daily and see who's making connections. I'm going to check in on this Discord daily and see if anyone's looking for something I can contribute to. I'm going to check in and reach out to people when I need it. It becomes a habit. And habits don't form overnight, right? These ideas don't sort of break into our seep into our brains immediately, right? They take work and they take motivation and encouragement. So the guy, right? If that's you, it's like, cool, I'm going to get out here. I'm going to encourage people to talk. It maybe somebody comes in and they're like, hey, I'm looking for this kind of person. And you're the one who's like, at so-and-so, hey, this person, like, you'd be a great fit for this, right? And then you get to see it work. You get to see it work in action. When somebody goes to that stream and goes, wow, I had a really good time with that person. They were exactly who I was looking for. I'm going to do that again next time. And then somebody else saw that interaction and it's like, I was a little nervous to put my name out there. I didn't want to like be weird about it, but like that suits me really well. I'm going to pipe up. And then eventually that just becomes something that you don't have to nudge, that you don't have to encourage. People are now encouraged and motivated on their own. And then the responsibility, you get to kind of lean back and go, man, look at the fruits of my labors. And you don't have to be as active in it. But there definitely needs, with any good idea, someone has to get it started. Someone has to kick it into motion and make sure it stays in motion. I'm in a dozen Discords that started off with great intentions and peter out because there's not enough engagement, there's not enough leadership, there's not enough encouragement to show it actually working in practice. So if that's you, Dan or chat or whoever it is, keep that in mind. Like, find the right people, connect them, keep pushing and motivating them until they become self-motivated. And then you just don't have to, then you've done something great.
All right. What Rain101, I'm loving the chat. Really, truly loving this. We've planted a lot of seeds I'd love to return to next time. Another banger you mentioned was the individualism is a tool of the capitalist class. They use it to divide us. They use it to conquer us. They use it to oppress us. They use it to maintain the class relationship. And they get to keep the means of production for themselves because of that. Yep. That was a good one. I'd love to continue talking about that one. And of course, just the idea of Western hegemony in general, and I just think this is one of my favorite chats that we've had so far. Of course, we got to sort of ditch the format a little bit. Of course, I wanted to bring in those questions that we skipped from since it changed.
You've added in,
yeah. But hey. What I wanted to let you do here at the end is give yourself the big shout out. Let people know the where, what, where, how, and when, and how and why, and what you do, etc.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I'm Rain101. You can follow me on Twitter and Twitch and all that sort of stuff. I stream at least 3 days a week, sometimes more. Tomorrow, I'm going to be running with a couple of my mods and my partner, I am Star Riley. I'm going to be running a tabletop RPG called Sexy Battle Wizards, which is going to be like a lot of fun. And I've done like a whole lot of world building for it. It's going to be really exciting. But Mondays I stream video games. You can see in the shout out of I play a lot of TFT. I'm kind of grinding back towards master, and otherwise I talk politics on my stream. I talk a lot about sort of like analyzing ideas and rhetoric. Most Wednesdays, I have a friend of mine who is a like sort of libertarian capitalist. He's like a small state capitalist, a good friend of mine, good faith. Smart dude who disagrees with me on a lot of different things. It's a really great panel show where people who are maybe sort of like left curious can come in and hear somebody who is advocating for some of the things they might believe, who isn't just a shitty clout chasing sock dem debate lord like we've maybe seen from time to time out there in the world. So yeah, a lot of different content, a lot of different ideas, a lot of different voices. I try to be really welcoming of people who are maybe not as far left as I am. If you come in good faith, you're going to be welcomed. If you ask questions, I mean, there's people in the chat, I think, who can vouch for that. If you come in and you don't agree with me, but you're not a dipshit, you're going to be welcomed with open arms and have the opportunity to ask questions, share your ideas, argue with me a little bit if you want. And yeah, I try to build a nice, inclusive community, welcome people who want to help people. So that's my spiel.
That's beautiful. Rain, we've invited you here in the spirit of building leftist unity, strength, and power. In that spirit, you've been a wonderful guest, again, a returning champion this week, our second visit today. So thank you so much for for chatting with us and sharing. This is a blast. I hope you feel free to sign up again. Get sign up for another chat. I just want to keep it going. Okay.
Absolutely. I've had a blast being on here twice now. So
awesome.
I look forward to it.
All right. Rain, peace, solidarity. See you next time.
See you, bud.
All right. Yeah. Oh. Okay, hold on. God, fuck. Are we okay? We're okay. That was wonderful. Rain101. Oh, gosh. What a great guest. Did y'all like that? I loved it. Make sure you follow Rain101 here on the twitch.com. Hey, YouTube. You're watching a clip from my Twitch channel. Twitch.tv/iDanSimpson, where you can follow for free and subscribe for only $5 a month. Thanks for watching.